Okay, sorry, folks online. You missed my big thank you, but it's okay. You haven't missed any of the content of the presentation. Just to get you caught up for those folks online, sorry, the mic in the room was muted. We're going to get the hearing underway with a brief presentation. And I was saying, if you've been involved with this process from the beginning, there's going to be some information that's familiar to you, but most of it is new and focuses on the changes since the first public hearing held in March.
May I ask a question as we get going?
Sure.
It's hard to tell, looking around the room, how many people are here for the hearing and how many are here for the meeting, which will come up afterwards. And it seems to me that if people aren't here for the hearing, we can open and close the hearing. Nobody's here for the hearing. If I make my point.
Yeah, this is
I
part of the
personally
hearing
feel that's a little
presentation.
disrespectful
Yeah.
to the effort.
But are there people here with the intent?
Everyone is here for the hearing process.
We're here because there's a meeting. And I believe others are in the same position.
Look at the agenda, 7 o'clock, public hearing.
Yeah.
So if you want to come back at 8 o'clock for the meeting. Understood? Yeah?
I don't agree, but I understand. Let's go ahead.
Okay, so in terms of the presentation tonight, I'm going to be giving just a quick summary again about our planning process, focusing on the key milestones in the development of this plan, as well as the engagement strategy that we implemented throughout the process in order to inform the document. Then just talk super quickly about what the regional plan is, its purpose, and its use. Because at this point, I'm assuming that everybody's pretty intimately familiar with the document. And then I'll be wrapping up with just a summary of the changes that have occurred since the first public hearing that we held on March 17th. I'll note that there were no substantive changes to the plan itself, but there were changes made to the regional future land use map, and I'll be providing a brief overview of what those changes entailed. So in terms of the planning process, we kicked this whole effort off in March of 2023. Between March and October of 23, we conducted a housing needs assessment for the Rutland region with Vermont Housing Finance Authority. We developed an engagement strategy with the support of an outside consultant. And then we kicked off the whole effort with our staff at a staff retreat in October. And from there, we were prepared to enter the drafting phase of the planning process, which ran from basically November of 23 through August of 2025. So we went through various iterations in order to really do a complete rewrite of the Rutland Regional Plan. This wasn't an update in the sense that we took the prior plan and just made some minor changes. This was a total rewrite. So we had various stages of drafting and in order to really start from scratch and get to a final version. So it was during the drafting phase between November of 23 and August of 25 where we implemented our engagement strategy. And that strategy had 3 phases. The first was what we called the learn and assess phase, so that we could get a shared understanding of baseline conditions along with strengths, assets, and challenges in the region by hearing from the people who are in the region. We completed that work between January and April of 24. And that helped inform, the first draft of the plan. And then later that year, between September and November of 24, we reported back to the region with another, second phase of engagement where we shared the early drafts of the plan's policies and what we heard during phase 1. And the outcome of that was really getting validation from the region that the plan's policies that we had started to form were on target. So that information from that engagement phase went back in to inform the draft 2. And then in spring, early summer of 2025, we we released the first full draft of the plan, and we were seeking alignment from the region on that complete first draft. And what we sought to get out of that engagement phase was really an understanding that the plan and the regional future land use map reflected a shared vision for community economic development, guided by areas that are designated for growth and conservation based on environmental, infrastructure, and community factors. So I just would draw your attention to this note in the upper right-hand corner that we have a whole engagement report that summarizes these 3 phases of engagement and documents all the feedback that we collected. You know, people took the time to provide that, so we've documented it in the engagement report, and that is available on the regional plan website that's been set up from the beginning of this effort as a central online location for all information related to the regional plan. So as we concluded the drafting phase with what was called the pre-application draft of the plan, meaning it was the version of the plan that got submitted for the first time to the State Land Use Review Board, and that transition is what crossed over from drafting to the adoption phase of the planning process. We received pre-application findings from the Land Use Review Board in November of 2025. We had our public information meetings following at the beginning of that next year in January of 2026 to share with the region the findings that we received from the Land Use Review Board, because they were more extensive than we were anticipating, and it really shifted some things significantly. So we wanted to make sure that folks understood kind of what was going to be required in terms of changes to the plan after the pre-application findings were released. And then leading up to the first public hearing, which we held in March, we released that revised draft of the plan to the public, held the hearing in March. That was then followed up with 3 supplemental public meetings around the region. Poultney, where'd we go, Devin? Poultney, Wallingford,
and Brandon.
Just to make sure that there was an opportunity for folks who maybe weren't able to attend the hearing to come in a more informal setting, maybe closer to where they lived, on a date that was more convenient, to just kind of talk about the plan and what their concerns were and provide feedback. So we took that info. Yeah.
Do you want to take questions during, or would you like to continue?
Yeah,
I think question. Jim, can you hold your question?
Yeah.
And let Stephanie finish.
We'll just kind of get
take
through this overview material and then kind of open the hearing. So, we took the input received during the first public hearing in March, as well as those 3 supplemental public meetings, and produced what you're going to be asked to vote on tonight. It is the final Rutland Regional Plan, and that's being presented tonight, May 19th, to the Board of Commissioners for adoption. So in terms of the purpose and use of the plan, at this point, folks should be very familiar with this, but just in case you're kind of new to the party, the Rutland Regional Plan is a comprehensive 8-year plan to guide and accomplish coordinated and efficient community economic development that balances economic development with social, cultural, and environmental priorities in the Rutland region. So this plan would be in effect from 2026 to 2034. Its purpose is also to help shape the pattern, design, and function of communities to hopefully best meet future needs. And at the center of this effort is an analysis of present and future land uses and identifying on the regional future land use map areas for growth and conservation. So that's kind of what makes this document in the world of community economic development distinct from others working in this area. Nobody else is really looking at it from a standpoint of present and future land uses. So the plan serves a variety of users and can be used in a multitude of ways. I had to print some cheat sheets for this particular part. So in terms of citizens and landowners, the plan is an educational and reference document that can provide essential information about the area and outline a vision for the future. It offers municipal officials guidance for developing town plans and supporting local initiatives such as transportation and economic development projects. Businesses and developers can refer to the plan to gather pertinent information about the Rutland region and identify suitable locations for projects and create business plans. State agencies with programs or actions that impact land use must participate in a planning process to ensure alignment with the regional plan. And then in terms of Act 250 and Section 248 development review, as part of the application review for major subdivision and development projects seeking an Act 250 permit, the Act 250 district environmental commissioners must determine whether the project aligns with the goals and policies of the regional plan. And then similarly, the Vermont Public Utility Commission must also evaluate in its application review for electrical or gas transmission or generation projects that are seeking a certificate of public good, whether that project would unduly disrupt the orderly development of the Rutland region as outlined in the regional plan. And then finally, as a statutory party to all Act 250 and Section 248 applications in the Rutland region, you as the Board of Commissioners conduct development reviews in accordance with your adopted application review policy. And you review these proposed developments for their conformance with the goals and policies of the regional plan, their potential for substantial regional impact, and orderly development in the Rutland region. So I'd again kind of draw your attention to the upper right-hand corner. If there was any uncertainty as to whether our regional plan complies with all the statutory requirements, we have also on the rutlandrpc.org/plan 2026 website a report that outlines exactly how our plan conforms with all the statutory requirements. So as I've said, there weren't any changes to the plan itself. There were changes to the plan's kind of complementary piece, which is the future land use map. So I want to talk just a bit about what the future land use map is. It's a planning tool that uses 11 new state-defined land use categories to show areas intended for growth, conservation, and other uses based on infrastructure, development patterns, and community input. So at this point, folks should be fairly familiar with these land use categories because we've talked about them at previous meetings. But I think the important thing to note is that the regional future land use map, in addition to having to use these specific land use categories now, also is used to identify areas eligible for the state designation program and Tier 1 Act 250 exemptions. I'm not going to go into detail tonight as to what the state designation program is or the tier 1 Act 250 exemptions. That information is available again on the project webpage. But before I leave this topic, I just want to note that the regional future land use map does not regulate land use or change local zoning. Just kind of be clear about kind of what it is and what it is not. So as far as the summary of changes since the first public hearing, no changes to the actual planning document itself after the first public hearing, other than just design, design changes to the cover, changes to the footer, things like that. In terms of the map itself, changes were made, as I said, based on feedback from our municipalities following the first public hearing and at those supplemental meetings. And the result of those changes is hopefully a more regionally consistent map with larger planned growth areas. So that's one of those 11 land use categories in eligible communities, and an increase in the size of the rural agricultural and forestry and rural general land use categories. We think these updates better reflect the need for more lower density, context sensitive development in rural areas. And the final regional future land use map supports long-term growth, is consistent with the statutory planning framework and the VACTA methodology. And it's intended to provide the greatest potential for housing and economic development of all scales in appropriate locations across the region. A much more detailed explanation of changes to the regional future land use map that were made after the first public hearing by land use category is available on that rutlandrpc.org/plan 2026 website. So if you wanted to really learn, have seen more in terms of the specifics about the changes, you can find that information there. The punchline being, in these 7 land use categories that are really designed for higher density growth, we ended up with a combination of downtown centers and village centers that occupy about, a little less than 1% of the land area in the region. Downtown centers in 3 towns and village centers in 25 of the towns in our region. The planned growth areas and village areas, similar, a little over 1.5% of the land area in the region, with planned growth areas in 10 towns and village areas in 3. And those land use categories we kind of refer to as the core 4, meaning that those land use areas are what are eligible for the tier 1. They're eligible for the tier 1B Act 250 exemptions. And so there are 12 towns that ended up having tier 1B eligible areas. Those were Brandon, Castleton, Fairhaven, Killington, Mendon, Paulet, Pulteney, Proctor, Rutland City, Shrewsbury, Wallingford, and West Rutland. And of those 12, we had 7 of the towns actually request to opt in for the tier 1B Act 250 exemption. And those 7 towns were Brandon, Fairhaven, Killington, Mendon, Pulteney, Proctor, and West Rutland. So any 4 of those land use categories, downtown center, village center, planned growth area, or village area, at the request of the municipality, can be locally exempt from Act 250 for certain types of development focused on housing. The remaining 3 land use categories, transition area, enterprise area, and resource-based recreation, also comprise pretty small percentages of land area in the region and are kind of sprinkled through about, anywhere from 6 to 13 of our towns. But at the end of the day, all of those land use categories comprise 6% of the region's total land area. And those are where we're designating land uses that are consistent with higher density growth. In terms of the remaining land use categories, these are the 3 rural, kind of rural general, rural agriculture and forestry, and rural conservation. All of our towns have each of those rural land use categories mapped in them. And the percent of land area in these 3 rural categories is obviously significantly higher. These are areas designated for lower density growth and or conservation. It doesn't mean no growth. It just means a different type of growth. So in terms of the map itself, hopefully everybody's been able to take a peek at the online version. If not, there are paper versions on the wall. But this should look familiar to folks who've been, with us right along. It's kind of an interactive GIS-based map that you can zoom in, see all of the future land use areas. And, if you're really interested in what those look like in your town specifically, you can zoom way in and the parcel lines will show and you'll kind of get a good sense of what's going on. But I think if you step back from it and look at it as more of a region, hopefully the pattern makes sense in terms of areas where the focus is on more higher density growth and areas where the focus is on more lower density or conservation uses. So we've done all this work. We've incorporated the feedback. We're here tonight, May 19th. This is the final public hearing. This is the version of the plan that's being proposed to the board for adoption. And this is the date by which any of the Tier 1B municipal resolutions were due, as we will be submitting those on behalf of the municipalities with the final adopted plan to the Land Use Review Board. We're planning to make that submittal on May 21st. Within 60 days of our submittal, the Land Use Review Board has to hold a public hearing. And then within 15 days of the Land Use Review Board's public hearing, they will issue a determination of whether they think our plan complies with the statutory requirements. On May 21st, we will also be submitting the adopted plan to the Public Service Department to get determination of compliance with the enhanced energy standards in order for our plan to receive the certification of an enhanced energy plan. So with a minimum of 15-day public notice, at some point following that submittal, the Public Service Department will hold a public hearing. And then within a 2-month review period, they will issue their determination of whether our plan complies with the requirements for enhanced energy plans. And then we will be done and ready to showcase
3 years later.
all of the 3 years later, all of the work to the region. That's
Thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah.
That presentation. Questions. We have one pending question that's been on the screen, so can we get
Yeah, it's
Jim.
Jim? Jim, is it Commissioner from Killington?
Jim, are you still with us?
I am here. I am here. Hello?
Go ahead.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. The question again?
You had a question?
No, I didn't. I've been listening. But then I heard
Oh.
Killington, so I
Okay.
kind of
Oh, your
unmuted
hand,
myself.
your hand is up.
Your hand is up.
Okay, so Jim is Jim Half from Killington, listening in. Okay?
Thanks, Jim. All right.
Okay, no problem. No questions. It sounds good so far. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Questions?
Do we know what the land use review board hearing will consist of? Will it be here? Will it be in Montpelier?
Let me check something really quick. The first one is actually happening, I think, tonight, and I'm not sure if it's in person with Northwest Regional Planning Commission.
So they're gonna do each region on its own? separate
Yes.
hearing? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll tell you in 1 minute.
Dick, while he's looking for that, I think it is worth noting that the land use, for everybody, that the Land Use Review Board is brand new. And this will be the first time they're actually implementing this process. So we were the first ones in the door with the pre-application draft of the plan, but we will not be the first ones through the final public hearing.
Will be the second,
Interesting.
and it will be in Rutland, because the one for Northwest is in St. Albans tonight.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
but there's no date or.
no,
dates or
that's
anything.
based on their schedule.
Yeah, okay,
When they deem our application complete,
Sure.
so.
yeah, okay.
Are those public?
Those are public,
Land use
yep.
review board hearings?
And I think we are obligated to provide notice of that hearing to the same channels that we've provided messaging for all of these meetings. So, as soon as the land use review board sets that date, we will certainly be pushing out information to all of the channels.
More questions? I have one. I'm just curious because early in the process, I thought Killington, Jim, maybe you know, but you guys probably know, was going for a 1A status.
Jim would be the authority on that,
Okay.
because that's a separate
I'll
application.
read about it maybe in the news.
Jim, have you guys
Oh, it's a
discussed?
separate application?
Yeah, so
Yes.
Rutland City
Ah,
will be the first one to
oh,
apply.
that's right.
And they apply
1A
directly
goes
to the land use board.
review board. I remember now.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying. Forgot that.
Yeah, it's a lot of layers to
Yeah.
this one.
Have you done that already? Working on
So Rutland City is gonna.
Yeah,
apply for
as soon
1A
as
well.
we're able to apply, we probably will.
Yeah.
So as soon as the LUR approves your plan, we plan on submitting our tier 1A application right on the heels.
And you're hoping, the city is hoping to have 1A
Yes,
status.
yeah. Yeah, that's why we didn't do 1B. It's because we were gonna go for the 1A.
And likely to get it. I mean,
it.
if Rutland doesn't get, no one's getting it.
I know, we're already built for it, so. So it's-
Further questions? Or comments or chit chat on our hearing? Our hearing is open until 8 o'clock, but if there are no questions, can we close the
Yeah.
hearing or do we have to keep it open?
No, yeah, we can close it when it's done.
Okay,
And
But-
we had intended to adopt the plan during this hearing,
yes.
but that looks like it really needs to be during the board meeting.
Oh, okay.
So I think we'd look
Thanks
to
for
amend
checking on that.
the, during the agenda approval section, amend the agenda to
Sounds
add
good.
that instead of having it during the hearing.
That sounds good.
So
All right.
I'm gonna stop sharing.
Yep.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Rutland Regional staff. I know there's a staff, Nick, online, and there are other staff members here. Unless I'm not
Just Karen.
recognizing your new, oh yeah, Karen's here.
Yep.
Of course. So I will hereby close the public hearing for the 2026 Rutland Regional Plan at 7:39.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Dennis.
So Board of Commissioners, don't go anywhere.
Jim isn't a board member.
Oh, he's just a Killington.
Yeah.
Oh, that was what.
Yeah.
I wrote him in because we don't have a.
Right. They haven't
Got it.
voted yet.
Thank you. Okay, Board of Commissioners, are you ready to begin our Board of Commissioners meeting? We could start. Let's start at 7:40. Are we continuing the recording?
Yeah, it's.
Okay. Or anyone need a break? Hearing none. I'll call to order the Rutland Regional Planning Commission Board of Commissioners meeting today, Tuesday, May 19th, 2026. We will begin our meeting, call to order at 7:40. Introductions. I'd like to go around the room and then Devin, if you will help me with everybody online.
Sure.
So can I start with you, Karen? As always.
Karen Hill staff.
Eric Berger Wallingford. Laura Black Shrewsbury.
Deb Neary, Executive Director.
Max Schneider from Brandon.
Bob Kerback from Iowa.
Larry Purcell, Mendon.
Maverick Gibbs, Hubbardton.
Henry Pittsburgh.
Ron Spencer from Clarendon, and I have our new alternate, Dan Benkowski.
Welcome, Dan.
Great.
Thank you.
Go ahead that way.
I'm Ed Bove, I'm the planning director for the city of Rutland.
The coroner Proctor.
Jim Marsh, Rutland Town.
Thank you.
Stephanie for staff.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Online, we have Barbara Thompson from Sudbury, Cheryl Murray from Benson, Drea Stoddard from Danby, Jessica Metcalf from Mount Holly, Judy Gilmore from Timoth, and Leona Minard from West Rutland, and Nick Starr staff.
All right, first item is the agenda, and before I ask for approval of agenda, I want to amend the agenda to include adoption process of the 2026 Rutland Regional Plan. We can do that as a first item on the agenda, right after we approve the agenda. Are there any other changes needed to the agenda? All right, with that change to the agenda, may I ask for an approval of the agenda? Motion to approve the agenda. I'll motion. Thank you, Erica.
I'll second.
Second, thank you, Anne. All in favor to approve the agenda with the change of adding the adoption process for the 2026 Rutland Regional Plan? Please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Too many words. Aye. Thank you. So any nays? Thank you, it sounded unanimous. Okay, moving ahead. On the table is the adoption of the 2026 Rutland Regional Plan. Let's see, may I have a motion to adopt the 2026 Rutland Regional Plan? I'll motion.
For discussion.
Whoa, two at once. Well, we'll have, we'll put it on the table, I believe, and then have discussion. Is
Can we
the-
have Erica have them make motion?
Yeah, Erica,
I'll second.
motion and second. Sorry, Larry, you got voted out there. Okay, the
Typical.
motion is on the table. Is there any discussion?
Yes,
Yes.
surprise.
No surprise.
I'm going to try not to rant at you this evening. I'm pretty sure this is going to pass. And I'm embarrassed to be a part of the passage. Brandon will be voting no. The illegitimacy of this process has got to be apparent. Quick example, we just had a hearing. The hearing isn't going to be reflected in anything we do. The hearing was just a farce. People went through the motions. There'll be no result from this hearing. I would ask for the yeas and nays on this whole.
You want a roll call?
Yeas and nays is the usual language. And that's the end of my. Question.
Could I ask why you
Thank
think
you,
it's a
Bob.
farce? So before we vote,
Yes, of course. We have a hearing. The purpose of a hearing isn't just to answer questions. The purpose of a hearing is so that the public has a chance to say, oh, you know, maybe you're wrong about this or wrong about that or wrong about the other thing. And the assumption then is that that will be taken to whatever the body is preparing the document. And it'll be reflected or not reflected, but it'll be considered by whatever body is voting, whatever we're talking about having a hearing on. And that isn't going to happen here, no matter what was said here this evening, it couldn't happen.
public was certainly invited if they wanted to come, weren't they?
Of course, and they can say anything they want. However,
They didn't show up.
no, I'm not saying that, you're missing my point. My point is that had somebody made a substantive comment, it would not have been considered prior to moving for adoption. It would not have been considered by the commission or even by the staff. Because there's no process, there's no place in the process for that to happen, but it's set up to. But having the hearing and the adoption at the same time makes the hearing essentially meaningless.
I just add to that, I already shut down my computer, but that was the point of the first public hearing held in March. And that was followed by 3 supplemental public
No,
meetings.
yeah, I understand all that.
And that's where there was the opportunity to
Then this is,
provide substantive feedback on the plan and the map. And there was input.
if this is a hearing. I don't want to belabor this because this is moved, but if this was a hearing. Part of the purpose, as I just said, is of a hearing, by definition, is for the body that's adopting to hear what the people think about what's being proposed. The presumption is that then they will at least take that into consideration in some fashion. That can happen with the process that we have here this evening.
Really noted. Thank you, Bronson.
Pardon me?
So duly noted. Thank you. This is the process laid out in statute, and that's a valid opinion. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Thank you. But I'm done.
No, I know. Yeah, no, thank you.
And-
Laura, there's
Okay.
one more. Ed has a comment.
I just wanted to make a comment to congratulate everyone here and Devin and the staff and all the board members for pulling this document together. It looks great. It's gonna serve its purpose. It's gonna help all the municipalities and it's been such a process. So just kudos to you, Devin, everyone in the room, Stephanie, Karen, Nick on the screen, and all the commissioners, because it's just really a great thing that's coming out of here. So congrats.
How much have you read?
Congratulations.
Thank you, Ed, both. More comments or questions? Any online? Is the board ready to have it? No, I can't ask that. We already have the motion on the table. It has been initiated and seconded. And
Call for the vote.
I believe I can call for the vote. Thank you, Erica. Experience. All right, I call for the vote to adopt the 2026 Rutland Regional Plan. All in favor of adopting the Rutland Regional, the
Bronson asked
2026
for,
Rutland.
Yeah, you're
yeah.
gonna
Oh,
do
yeah,
a
sorry,
roll-
roll
You're
call.
gonna do a roll call.
Roll call.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Bronson
didn't know
asked
if you
for,
did that first. Thanks.
Yeah. So if you want to
Clean up
just
on my Robert's rules.
read the name next to the
Okay.
check mark, then we can. Yeah, your name.
I didn't know if you did it and then
Yep.
did a roll call.
Completely.
Okay. Cheryl Murray. From Benson. Yay or nay?
Yay.
Said aye.
Aye, thank you. Jack Schneider?
Yay.
Yes. Bronson Spencer from Clarendon?
Nay, no.
Nay. Drea Stoddard from Danby? Your mute maybe, no, the mute isn't on. Drea?
Throw it in the chat if you are struggling to get your camera or your mic. We are not able to hear you.
That was at the very.
That was
beginning.
that was way back. Oh,
She's nodding.
thank you, Drea.
Yes.
That's a yes. Looks like a yes. If that is a yes, you put your hand up. Okay. Not here, right?
No.
Robert Gibbs.
Yes.
Upperton, there you are. Yes. Bob Kerbeck, Ira.
All right.
Aye. Larry Corsell, Mendon.
Yay.
Jessica Metcalf, Monholly. There she is. She's muted. Jessica, you're muted. Jessica, can you unmute or turn on your screen? Turn on your video?
Technology.
Can you unmute her?
I cannot. I can only mute her.
All right, we've got them. We weren't even gonna start this until 8 o'clock.
Yeah. I can. We could circle back to Jessica.
All right, Jessica, we'll come back to you. Anne Reed, Pittsburgh.
I,
Aye.
she email you her
Thank
vote,
you.
Kevin?
I'm gonna message her right now.
Dick Horner.
Aye.
Thank you, Dick. From Proctor. Where's Dick? Jim Marsh.
Aye.
Thank you, Jim. From Rutland Town. Laura Black, Shrewsbury. Aye. Barbara Thompson, Sudbury. Barbara Thompson, Sudbury, you're muted. I hope people didn't think that the meeting would start. They might have left there. Was starting at 8, you know.
That's possible.
Something looks funny with their little
No, it's the
icons have
person with the question
exclamations
mark.
and question marks.
That just means they're not in our
Oh, in the
network.
network, right? Barbara Thompson, we'll come back to you, as well as Jessica Metcalf. I will go on, Judy Gilmore.
Oh,
Oh, there's
Barbara.
Barbara. Hold on, Judy.